Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm excited to have with me Stryper singer and frontman Michael Sweet. We're going to talk all about the new album from Stryper, The Final Battle, and he'll also share with us some thoughts about could this be Stryper's last album, and whether or not he feels that a lot of people have a misconception of who Stryper is and the type of music they play. This was a great conversation. Lots to cover in this one. I know you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Well, Michael, first, I just want to thank you for joining me today. It's an honor to have you on the show. Welcome back to the States here. Your band just wrapped up a couple of shows in Costa Rica and Bogota. How were those shows for you guys?
Amazing. We hadn't been to Costa Rica for 22 years. So in 2000 was the last time we were there, and we had a great crowd then. And then this time we had a great crowd. We performed to a sold-out crowd at the Pepper Club in San Jose. Incredible energy, amazing crowd. And then we went for the first time to Bogota, Colombia, and we performed there, and it was amazing as well. Sold out show, first time ever in Colombia, so really special.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, no, it's, one of the things that a lot of bands always say is that these international fans are always so enthusiastic and so excited to see the live bands and the rock music. So it sounds like that was the same experience you guys had this time around as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is in terms of the level of energy in some of these other countries. But, we go to Puerto Rico or Colombia or Costa Rica, and there's just this intense level of energy. Like, here, maybe it's, if you think it's a 10 at a show like the Whiskey, a club like the Whiskey or whatever, which it is, they go there and it's like turned up to 12 or 13. It's like it's just off the charts. Maybe it's because they don't get out as often, they don't get to see bands as often. I'm not sure what it is, but it's really special. It's incredible to see. It feels like the energy from the 80s when this surge of metal began, of hair metal, whatever you want to call it, this style of metal began in the early 80s. When you used to perform back then, it was the same kind of energy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Now we're talking today. It's the day before the release of your newest album coming out, The Final Battle. It's been decades now that you're putting out music. Do you still get excited on the eve of a new album coming out? Do you get anxious? What is your feelings like when a new album's dropping in 24 hours or less now?
Sure. I mean, I do. I get anxious, certainly. I get excited because I'm thinking about the fans worldwide hearing it for the first time, as an entire album instead of just a few songs. Yep. That's really, I do get a little nervous because, my hopes and desires are always that of concern that the fans will like it or not. It's just part of what goes. It's not so much that I worry about it or lose sleep over it. It's just that I work really hard on, speaking for myself, on my craft as a writer and a producer and a musician. And I want people to hear it and like what they hear, and so much work goes into it. So yeah, there's always a little bit of that in the back corners of my mind of thinking like, gosh, I hope everyone likes it and gets it. I'm really, really pleased with the album. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and I've heard an advanced copy and it sounds great. Absolutely.
Well, man, yeah, and it's tricky because I try to merge the old with the new, classic with a modern twist, modern
Yep.
flair, and it's hard to do.
Yep.
Um, you don't want to go so modern that you alienate your fan base, and you don't want to go so classic that you don't gain a new fan base.
Yep.
And it's a juggling act. It really is. But I think Stryper's done a fairly good job of that over the past 10 years or so, 9 years, starting with No More Hell to Pay.
Yep. Now, do you think that there's some fans that maybe have like a preconceived idea of what Stryper is, be it, in the 80s, whether it's songs like Calling on You or Honestly, that were melodic or in some cases softer. And then this album, Changressa, right out of the gate, bang, hits you in the face, and sounds really nothing like that, but yet it still sounds like Stryper. Do you think maybe some fans have this preconceived idea of who or what Stryper is?
I do. And, I think sometimes those fans are kind of limiting themselves. They need to kind of open their minds a little bit. And I think a lot of times, in all fairness, that's tied to memories.
Mm.
They might have a special memory. Maybe they danced to Honestly at the high school prom, or
Yep.
you know what I mean. And with that, it makes that song more special to them than any other song. So I get that, the nostalgia of that, and those memories that go along with it. But at the same time, I think those fans that think that the best of Stryper is Calling on You, they really need to open their ears and their minds and listen to the new stuff, because the new stuff is just as good as the old stuff.
Yeah.
It's a little different, as you said. It's definitely a little different. But that it's Stryper the moment you hear it.
Exactly.
Still has those signature guitars and vocals and all that stuff that you expect to hear from Stryper.
Yep. Yep. I know during this album cycle there was some, I'll say, health issues for the band. So just, I guess, first off, how's Oz doing? It seems like he was out on the road with you guys. Is he doing much better now?
He's doing better, definitely. Absolutely. And we've been out playing with Oz for quite a while.
Yep.
Everything that I can see and hear, Oz sounds and seems to be performing as he always has.
Amazing.
Yeah, and everything's good there. I noticed that as we're getting older, it's a little trickier, to tour like we tour.
Of course.
3 and 4 shows in a row, 4 a.m. lobby calls, playing, flying planes to and from, and performing. And by that 3rd show in a row or 4th show in a row, we're beat up. We're like,
sure.
back in the day, we weren't so beat up.
Well, that's the difference between being 20 and, I'll say, not being 20 anymore.
Exactly. And I tell you, we take care of ourselves, for the most part. We're not, we all haven't gained 100 pounds, and, we're not alcoholics, and you know what I'm saying? We
Sure.
try to take care of ourselves for the most part. And that being said, even though we do take care of ourselves, it's still pretty brutal on the bodies, and it's exhausting. But we love what we do, and that's what gets us through. And we do it for the fans. We're here to present a message, and a message through powerful music. And our hopes and desires are to reach a lot more people before we're done.
Absolutely. Now, I know you had some eye surgeries as well. So, between your health challenges, Oz's, and just the state of the world these days is a little bit chaotic, I'll say. How did all of these things, or did any of those things, impact the songwriting process on The Final Battle?
It definitely impacted. I'll just speak for myself. I mean, when you compare eye surgery to brain surgery, one thinks like, oh, gosh,
sure.
You can't do. But I'll tell you, the eye surgeries did a number on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just it. If it had been one surgery, it might not have been so bad, but it was 3 surgeries. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got through that 3rd surgery, my eyes still really beat up. I can't really see out of it. When I try to look through both eyes, I get vertigo and dizzy, and it's tricky. When I start to move on stage, I have to stop myself and say, okay, I can't do that because I feel like I'm going to fall down. And it's just amazing how something so simple as an eye can change things so drastically. I'm starting to learn. I'm going to start practicing in the dark. A friend of mine recommended that. And I'm going to start doing that because I find that when the lights are too dark on stage, I'm not sure where I am on the guitar neck.
Interesting.
More mistakes are made. It's just harder, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I found that when I came out of the first surgery, I had to lay down first for 2 weeks. And when I came out, the timing worked out perfectly where I was able to write the album. And then right after I wrote the album, my eye redetached and I had to lay down again for 2 weeks. And I was really, really bummed out, man, at that time. I went into a bit of a depression, and thinking like, what's going to happen here? And then when I arose from that 2-week period, we started recording the album. And I went into the album recording process just feeling a little down on, and not being able to see. I had to be real careful and literally like move my head very careful. And I recorded the album that way, like just kind of sit there and not like I normally do.
Right.
Normally I'm standing up, getting into it. I couldn't do it that way. Oz obviously had to take it easy. And miraculously, I don't think people hear that on the album. I don't think
as you're talking, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't hear that on the album.
No, I don't think that's present on the album. And I think somehow, some way, this album still has that energy, and you would never know it. Agreed. That we were struggling while we were making the album. There's no question about it,
It's amazing to hear you say that. And even just the way the album starts, and I mentioned Transgressor before, just that whole beginning of the song, and you scream, whatever, it's like 10, 15 seconds at the start of that song. And I'm like, how is he doing that? How, we're not kids anymore. That voice still sounds so perfect. And you talked about keeping yourself in shape, and it shows just on the opening notes of the album to me.
Well, man, that's very nice of you to say. I tell you, as a singer, I do a little too much on albums, and a lot of times I can't pull it off live,
Okay.
What happens, it's easy to do something in the studio. And then when you get out on a stage and you're running around and you're playing and singing, you realize, oh crap, I can't do all these high notes because I don't have the air capacity to do it, or what have you. And just the adrenaline, and it's different live. Sure. But I can still hit high notes, and I'm very thankful for that. I don't have the voice that I once had back in the 80s, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. My voice was super high back then. Mm-hmm. It's gotten a little deeper now, and I think that works for the style we're doing. And I'm very grateful that I can still sing and do what I do.
I remember seeing you post online, I guess it was a few months back, about the fact that the band was going to tune down, and you seemed almost like apologetic of it. And I remember reading those posts and thinking, why is he so, like, every single band that I've ever seen live does that? Why is Michael so upset about this?
Well, you know what it is for me? Maybe it's wrong for me to think this way, but it's a little bit of a pride issue. Being, you're proud that you don't have to tune down.
Right.
Because you can do it in the original key. And there's something to be said for that. It feels good to be able to say that. But then I realized, as you said, everyone tunes down, except for maybe a select few.
Very select few.
Very select few. Usually those few are bands that don't sing in a super high register.
Yep.
The bands like Stryper that sing in a very high register belting. You see, the vocals for Stryper, and this isn't to put us on a pedestal, but they're unique in the sense that not only are they high, but they're chest belted vocals.
Yep.
They're not head voice. They're not throat. They're not. They come from here, not from here.
Sure.
And that makes it a little bit more difficult to pull off. So when we dropped the key down a half step, I felt like, wow, okay, this is a little easier. Sure. I can get through the show a little easier and not have to strain or struggle so much. And you got all the vocal coaches out there watching right now saying, oh, if he took left, he'd be able to do it again. That's bull crap.
Right. Right. Well, those vocal coaches also aren't playing in hundreds of shows a year for the last 3-4 decades. With all respect to them.
All respect to them, but it makes me laugh sometimes when you hear these guys saying, oh, yeah, because he's singing wrong. No, I'm not singing wrong.
Right.
I get my vocal cords checked every year. I've never had surgery. I've never had nodules. They tell me my vocal cords look pristine. I'm not singing wrong. If I was singing wrong, they would not look pristine. So my problem lies with just aging. You know, your vocal folds as you age, they start to stiffen. And there's not a darn thing you can do about that.
You're saying that, I'm like, God bless, we should all have that problem that we're just aging.
Well, your muscles, you
Yeah,
age, will change. It's just part of life.
absolutely.
You deal with it the best way that you can. You stay in shape. That's important. Take
Yep.
care of yourself, of course. But also, I've got post-nasal drip really bad.
Okay.
And I'm always clearing my throat. It's a real thick post-nasal drip. And they've actually, my doctors who scope me have said, we've never seen anything like it.
Hmm.
It's almost like glue
Okay.
on my vocal cords continuously. And that it keeps me from being able to sing at the best of my range and top of my range. But they also said that they think that it's protected my vocal cords as well. So, you know, I'm definitely singing right. I'm blessed to still have the voice that I have. And is it what it once was? No. But
it sounds great on the album. It sounds great in concert still as well. You know, and talking of the album, to me, some of the standout tracks, like I loved Same Old Story and Heart and Soul, to me were two great standout tracks. It's got great hooks. It's got the harmony vocals that the band's known for, yet they're heavy. So just talk about those two songs a little bit.
Yeah, those two songs are kind of bookends, if you will. Like Transgressor and Ashes to Ashes are bookends. Yeah. Those two songs could also be bookends in the fact that they're kind of similar. We went as a video with a Same Old Story because we felt like that was just a little stronger song. And not only a little stronger, but the label, the whole team seemed to be more excited about that one versus Heart and Soul. But I love Heart and Soul as well. I love the groove of that. But yeah, Same Old Story's got a little bit more of a modern flair to it, a little bit. But it's got that classic thing as well. And I think those are the kinds of songs that are going to gain new fans versus songs like See No Evil or even Transgressor. That's going to appeal maybe more to the old fans. But I think Same Old Story might appeal to some newer fans. So we're super excited about it. The video's doing fantastic. We can't wait for the album to come out and see what the reaction is, you know, as an entire album, every song.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, to that point, another song to me was the song Near, which I thought was a little bit more melodic. It was a great song as well. So talk a little bit about that song as well.
That's probably my favorite song on the album.
Really? Okay.
I think it is. And when I say that, I mean just as a song, the structure, the writing, the way it comes across as just a song. Yep. I just feel like it's just a really good song. And if I heard that on the radio, I would say, who is this? You know, right. This is cool. I like this. It's a power ballad, 100%. Mm-hmm. And ballads are important for us because we not only grew up on Maiden and Priest, but we grew up on Journey as well.
Sure.
Journey, bands like Journey they're big influences on us. Loverboy, and it's always important for us to do a ballad, but yet we don't want to do something that's so syrupy that people say, why is that on the album? Maybe like, for example, All of Me.
Sure.
You know, I wrote that for my wife as a wedding song. So it was important to me. Some fans maybe didn't get it, but
I still love it.
It's one of my favorites and it means a lot to me, you know? Mm-hmm. So, but my point is that it was just really, really ballady, you know, really syrupy. But Near is not like that. It's power.
Yeah, it is.
Pounding guitars. And I really, really like how Near turned out. And I can't wait for people to hear that one.
Absolutely. Now, I know in the next couple of weeks, I think it's about 2 weeks from now, you guys are going out on the Kiss Cruise and then following that up with some shows, I think at the Whiskey. In fact, I think the first one sold out and they just put another show on sale, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's some shows in Mexico. So I'm assuming some of the new songs will debut at some of these shows now?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. The problem is we don't have the time to rehearse.
Okay.
So we're flying in and flying out of these shows, and we go home and we have our breather. I'm building a house. My wife and I are building a house. My daughter's moving. You know, we've got a lot of stuff. When we do have downtime at home, it's filled with all kinds of other things.
Sure.
So there's not that time to rehearse and to work out new songs. So I don't know. It's a good question. We could do We may not. I'm not sure. We'll have to play that one by ear.
Well, the fans will have to sit on the edge of the seats waiting to see, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Sure.
I just mentioned the Kiss Cruise, and I know in the past you guys covered Shout Out Loud. I remember seeing you guys do that in concert for a number of times. Being on the Kiss Cruise, and I know you mentioned a few different bands before, but what did Kiss mean for you as growing up as a kid?
Well, I mean, I tell you, I've always said this, and it's not no disrespect to Kiss, but I was always a fan, but not as big a fan as my brother.
Okay,
My brother was always like the super fan
sure.
of Kiss. I was a fan of Kiss, but I'm a big fan of like the old stuff. Like whenever we're having listening parties on our bus after a show, and we're sending in requests, we text requests to the guy playing on the JBL. I always send in songs like Strutter, Come On and Love Me,
Right.
stuff. That's the stuff that I'm a huge fan of. Kiss obviously it changed the music world. There's no denying that. They came at a time when it needed to be changed, and they're pioneers of shaping the new world of music. That the show and the shock value and going, whoa, they were the band that did that. But it's really cool. Big influence of ours. That's why we covered Shout It Out Loud on our covering album. We listened to Kiss growing up. We saw Kiss growing up, and huge influence on the band. Absolutely.
That's awesome. One of the things I love about you and just your whole approach is that, and this, in the 70s, Kiss was seen as like the music of the devil, right? But you've embraced Kiss music, as you just said. You've embraced Black Sabbath music. I've heard you talk in a favorable way about King Diamond, right? Everybody knows the stories about him. Why do you think that you could be so open-minded about these, I'll say, different types of bands compared to yours, yet some people can't be so open-minded about the fact that you sing about God? Well, why is that?
Well, because I'm an open-minded person for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be, and I want to be. And, I guess being in a band that got ridiculed and attacked from both sides helped to make me who I am, to have a little compassion and a little grace towards other bands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an open-minded guy. I think that people that don't understand it are probably not open-minded people in general.
Yep.
And that goes for probably everything in life. I would assume that some of them are probably racist. They're probably not open-minded when it comes to people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically on a ship that sailed away a long time ago. They're living in the past because the times right now is all about accepting people, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, no matter what they stand for, no matter what religion they follow. And bands like, it's funny because a lot of these bands that they get up in arms about, like Black Sabbath, for example, they really weren't a satanic band, but they were
exactly.
It's really silly. You read some of their lyrics and it's like, these are Christian lyrics.
Yeah, so true.
These are satanic lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people, I think, so many times judge the book by its cover.
Very true.
They look at the cover and they judge it, and they close the door to knowing anything about what's inside the book.
Yep. Yep.
And it's really sad because they basically separate themselves from greatness many times because of that.
Yep, agreed. Speaking of judging a book by the cover, slightly different, but I want to talk about album covers for a moment here, right? So to me, you guys always have great. When I think of album covers, I think of Kiss, Iron Maiden, and Stryper as great album covers, and the art of an album cover to me is a little bit lost on the fact that now people stream, and even CDs were much smaller. But just talk about the album cover artwork for this, because I think it's another great album cover for you guys.
Well, if you really want to look at it this way, and I don't think many people do, but the album is just as important as the music.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that, maybe I should rephrase that. It was just as important.
It was, yeah. In the 80s, it definitely was.
Because when you were walking through a record store, that's the first thing that caught your eye.
Yes.
And if you had a black album cover, who cares about that? You saw right next to it the Tell with the Devil album cover, or a Maiden cover or a Kiss cover, and you went, "Whoa, what's that?" Wow. And you looked at it and investigated a little bit more, and maybe bought it, walked out and said, I want this album, not having even heard a song.
Yeah. I'll admit, I did that in the 80s. Oh, that album cover looks cool. I've never heard of the band. I'm going to buy this.
That's how important the album covers were, and I still think are, to a degree, because we still have the visual side of the internet and people can see it online and whatnot. Sadly, though, we do live in a streaming age where people download and or stream, and they don't hold the album cover. They don't really get to experience it like we did back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And it's a lost art, man. No pun intended. It's really sad. Hopefully it'll come back full force like it once did and happened.
I hope so. And when looking at the album cover, I couldn't help but think, but whether it's the artist or somebody in the band, who's the Star Wars fan? Because you got some lightsabers on some of you guys.
I know. Well, you know what it was is the way it works always is Lisa and I on the past 5 albums since No More Hell to Pay to now.
Yep.
The battle. There's a guy named Stan Decker, French guy who works for Frontiers and amazing, amazing artist. And he did all the artwork for those albums and he just knocked it out of the park for everyone. We will give him ideas and say, we're going for this look, send him a few photos of what we're kind of trying to achieve, a few Bible scriptures, and explain and describe what we're looking for. Then he'll send us a mock-up and we'll say, whoa, okay, that's close. That's really good. He added the lightsabers.
Okay.
And at first I saw him and I thought, I don't know about that. But then I thought, you know what? Those are cool.
Yeah.
Those are going to stay. And they stayed. And so far, nobody has said anything negative about it, I don't think.
No, I haven't seen anything. Like I said, to me, the artwork is so striking. And just another thing is you sit, because I sit there and I study the artwork and I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. That's a cool little thing in there also. So to me, it just added another tiny little element to the whole packaging.
I get a kick out of it too. It's so funny, man. I laugh my butt off when some of these people negatively comment on the album cover and they say it's so 80s, man, so cheesy. And I'm like, duh, that's the point.
Right, exactly. Talk about going over somebody's head, I guess.
Oh,
man.
It's really funny, man. Oh, my God.
You know, you mentioned before about people streaming music. And to me, one of the things about albums is the art of sequencing songs also and going through that whole journey. And that's the way I love listening to music. And that's why I listen to this new album, you know, going through from beginning to end. But do you think that the listening experience has really changed for the, I'm going to say the worst perhaps for listeners? Or do you think it's better that it's so instant now that people could just get the music online instantly, however they want it?
My biggest beef with the times that we live in now is the fact that back in the day, you'd buy the album and you'd have no choice but to listen to the whole album. Right? And there might be songs you skip on that album or songs you don't care for as much, but you still had all the songs. Now, that's not the case. Yeah. People go on iTunes and skim the songs. Oh, I like that one. And I don't care for that one. They download or stream the songs they think they like. And they don't even listen to some of the other songs. And the fact is, some of those other songs are the best songs on the album.
Sure.
They haven't heard the whole song.
Agreed.
They base 30-second clip. And I'm like, wow, that's like watching a 30-second clip of a movie and saying, I'm going to pass.
Great point. Yeah.
Because I don't like that clip. It's like, and if the movie comes out and it gets rave reviews and it's one of the best movies of all time, I think people sadly overlook greatness because of the attention span that we have. Attention spans are so short right now and based on 30-second clips.
No, that's so true. Now, the album is titled The Final Battle, and I couldn't help but think, you know, are you trying to allude to the fact that this potentially could be the last Stryper album, or is it just a cool title to you? Like when I heard that, my first thought was like, ooh, I hope that's not it for Stryper. Am I misreading this?
Well, no. I mean, in the deep, dark corners of my mind, I think that was there. Those thoughts were there. It might be silly for me to think that. Some people would say, oh, dude, come on, you know. But, you know, we're not getting any younger. Who knows, you know, if the funds and the label and if everything's going to be there, the machine to get it done time after time. So it could be our last album. I don't think it is. I don't want it to be.
Mhm.
but it certainly could be. We don't know what tomorrow brings. You know, here we are reading in the papers day in and day out about nuclear this and nuclear that, and the times
Mhm.
that we've been, and tomorrow's never promised for any of us.
True.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. I hope I am.
God willing, right? Let's hope so.
I
Let's
hope
hope
I
so.
am.
Yeah.
But I will be. You don't. Nobody does.
No, none of us do.
It's not promised, and that's why it's so important to savor the day, take every moment, and live it to the fullest. And I want there to be many more albums. My goal was always to have 21 albums, 21 Stryper albums, 21 solo albums.
Mm.
Stryper's at 14 studio albums. Michael Sweet is at 10 studio albums, but I got 2 in the works. So I'll
Okay.
be at 12.
Right.
We still got a long way to go to hit 21 each.
Absolutely. Well, then let's hope that this isn't the last. And I heard or read rumors online, and maybe you could tell me this is right or wrong, that you would also thinking of doing an acoustic album. Is there any truth to that?
That's already done.
Oh, it's done. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's done. Artwork, it's ready to go.
Okay. So what's the status then? What's the holdup to get that out?
Just timing,
Mhm.
scheduling. We don't want to overlap anything else. Like we
Sure.
got Final Battle coming out. We were going to release the acoustic album this year, then Final Battle, and it's always a matter of that kind of takes the back seat because of other things going on, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But the acoustic album is coming. Right now, we're planning on, I believe, early next year,
Okay. Excellent.
and it's killer, man. It's killer, and not only will people get the album itself, but they also will get live. There will be a live version of it as well
Oh, awesome. Sounds
in the
great.
video of us doing it. So it's really killer album. We're super excited about it. I can't wait for people to hear it. It's very cool. You know, it's acoustic. The songs are a little different arrangements on some of the songs.
Okay.
It's killer. What it's probably going to be one of my favorite albums. And I know I get made fun of for saying that all the time, but I mean it every time. If I didn't mean it, I would never say it.
Well,
Uh,
when you're working on something as an artist, if you don't feel that it's as good or better than what you've done, then you should probably abort at that point.
exactly. I go by what I feel when I pop it in the CD in my car and I listen to it. If I'm going, yeah, that's a strong feeling for me, and it says a lot. Versus if I'm just kind of going,
Sure.
this needs a little bit more work. And trust me, we've done albums like that and
Hmm.
songs like that.
Okay. Which albums do you think, looking back, you say, maybe it's not up to standard?
Yeah, everybody's heard me go on about Against the Law.
Hmm.
I listen to that album and I pop it in and I'll take it out within 5 minutes
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and top side.
Right. Okay.
It
Okay.
just does nothing for me. Now there are certain songs on there that do a lot for me.
Right.
That we play live, like All for One. I love that song.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite songs. It's kind of sad that it was on Against the Law. I felt like it would have done a lot better as a song if it was on another album.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that album, just there's too many memories, bad memories that go along with it.
Hmm.
Hard for me to enjoy it. I don't like the fact that we sold out and changed who we were to the core
Right.
on that album.
Right. Well, so like you said before, when talking about some of the older material, it's for fans and obviously for artists as well. It's a timestamp of a certain point of your life, and
Yep.
sometimes, like you're saying, if it was not a good time, either for the fan or the artist, you can look at an album in a certain way. So I totally
So,
understand that.
and that album, I mean, that album, when I hear someone say it's my favorite album, they explain why. Usually it's because that's when they became a Stryper fan.
Right. Yeah.
It was the first album they heard. And see, I get it. See, those memories play a big part in the reason
Absolutely.
why they love that album. I just don't care for it because it doesn't sound like Stryper to me. It sounds like Van Halen more so on many than Stryper. And we kind of lost our sound and our style and our
Right.
look.
Right.
But that's one. I would say another one might be part of Murder by Pride, not all of it.
Okay.
I love some of my favorite songs on that album, and I love the fact that it was really different. But being a Stryper album, it was a little too different, maybe.
Right.
Reborn I love. I mean, that was really different.
Sure.
but I love the fact that it still had something to it that was like, ugh. But yeah, there you go.
Makes sense. Well, you mentioned before about not wanting to flood the market, which I totally understand. And it made me remember again, you went online probably about 5, 6 months ago to talk about unauthorized reissues of some of your older albums. So as we're talking about the new album, it just makes me think, do you now have the rights to your new albums to protect against something like that happening with the newer material?
We're getting the rights back to our albums slowly but surely. Like we're starting to get the rights back to some of my solo albums.
Yeah.
We just got rights back to One Sided War. Getting the rights back to some of the Stryper albums on Frontiers, like No More Hell to Pay, and I believe Fallen.
Okay.
Definitely No More Hell to Pay. And then we're getting the rights back to some of the classic albums, like the Yellow Black Attack and Soldiers. And as the years pass, within 3, 4, 5 years, we'll have the rights back to all those albums to basically do with what we want. Excellent. And as it should be.
Agreed.
Yeah, as it should be. I think enough time has passed, and these labels have far too much control and power over many of these bands through the years, and it's really sad to see.
It is. And, you enter into agreements when you're 20 years old or whatever it is, and you don't understand the long time implications of that. So I'm happy to hear that over the next few years, you're going to be getting your music back because you guys deserve that.
Yeah, Stryper's always been one of those bands. Thank God our parents taught us about publishing.
Mm-hmm. Good.
We were 18 years old. I knew about publishing. And when we went in and signed the deal, we gave up our publishing on the first album, but then we fought for our publishing on all the other albums.
Excellent.
Most bands back in those times probably gave up their publishing or a part of. We've always fought hard. When I have a label tell me they want a part of the publishing, I tell them, what do you think? I'm stupid?
Right. Yep, absolutely.
They don't deserve or, should not in any way, shape, or form have the right to take your publishing.
Yep.
They'll laugh at it and they'll tell you it's a deal breaker, and you tell them, well, it's a deal breaker. Right. And you go find a label that's not going to ask for your publishing, or you release your album on your own,
which is very possible these days now.
You don't give up that stuff, because down the road you'll regret it.
Agreed. 100% agreed. So I hear that you're also working on a documentary now as well. Can you give a status update on that?
We did a Kickstarter campaign and raised over $200,000, which was insane. We still can't believe it. And sadly, well, I shouldn't say sadly, we had to basically wait on starting the documentary because of everything going on. Mm-hmm. Pandemic, being behind on albums, touring and whatnot. But the focus for the documentary is going to basically be at 100% next year. We're going to focus on that. We're going to get that done. And once it's done, it's going to be absolutely brilliant and amazing, because we're going to focus more so on lives that were affected by the band versus the band itself. You're going to see footage of the band. You're going to see interviews of the band, but that stuff's boring.
Okay.
Watch this lead singer talk about the band for an hour and a half, and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And half of the time that lead singer was on drugs or dope or what have you, booze, and you're just sitting there kind of thinking like, I doubt that it really went down that way,
right.
Yeah. We're going to focus more on lives that have been affected by the band and altered by the band in such a miraculous, powerful way. So it's going to be a really different, unique documentary, and I think it's going to touch a lot of people. It's going to be powerful.
That sounds awesome. And what about touring plans for 2023? What's in the works for that?
We got touring plans, and as we're touring, we're going to be making the documentary, getting footage. Oh, wow. Lots of touring plans. I know that we've got this year, we've got the Kiss Cruise. We've got Mexico in December. And then starting next year, we're doing a festival down in Key West with a bunch of different bands. And we're going to basically hit the ground running. I want to say starting in March or April. We're going to do a lot of touring next year.
So I think between touring, the documentary, the acoustic album, I know you said you hope this isn't the last Stryper album. Stryper doesn't sound like they're going anywhere anytime soon in my mind.
Man, I hope not. I think what it is with Stryper is, we want to continue doing this. We love doing this. But you know, you do as you get older, just like a marriage or what have you, you've got personality things going on.
Sure.
Everybody has different personalities. Everyone gets more set in their personalities. Everyone gets a little more stubborn and wanting to give. They got their lives going on back home versus the life out on the road. And it's a little trickier to pull everyone together, especially when you don't have the money to do it. Like if you're the Rolling Stones, that's easy, man.
Sure, right.
Everyone says, "Oh, they're still going and they're almost 80." Well, they've got all the money in the world to make them go. They've got private jets and limos, and they don't have to lift a finger to do anything except play the guitar during the hour and a half set or 2 hour set. But everything else is done for them.
Right. Right. And they're not living on a bus going from city to city. They're staying in one hub. They're flying in. They're flying out. It's a much different lifestyle.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, we just did a ground run in 3 minivans.
Yep.
Driving ourselves, 8 hour drives in between shows, 4 a.m. lobby calls, 4 in a row. And I don't know that the Stones would be able to do that, but you know, maybe they would. God bless them. But you get my point. It's like for us, it's a little more difficult because we are getting older, and the way we have to tour is a little more difficult these days. And you know, it's tricky, but we figure it out. We work it out, and we're still smiling. We're still happy. And hopefully we can keep smiling and stay happy for many years to come so we can keep doing it.
Amen. So obviously you keep doing it because you love it. You know, just really quick, 1 or 2 other things. So outside of Stryper, you've been doing a bunch of, I'm sorry, what was that?
I just said, I didn't want to interrupt, but that's it. You hit the nail on the head. We love it. We still do. And that's why we do it. Absolutely.
And you wouldn't be driving the car yourself and doing those 4 a.m. wake up calls, recording new albums, putting that kind of stress on yourselves if you didn't love it.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And then, you know, like I was trying to say, outside of the band, you've also kept very busy. You had the iconic album this year with Joel Hoekstra, an amazing guitar player, one of my favorites of the last probably 2-3 decades. I think he's amazing. You also got the Sweet Lynch thing that you've been recording. So can you give any update on the Sweet Lynch and what it was like working with Joel?
Well, yeah, working with Joel is amazing. We always talked about doing an album together. And when we talked about that for years, we meant like, you know, Sweet Hoekstra, you know, and it wound up being iconic, which is great.
Yes.
Because, you know, we're playing with Tommy and Marco and Nathan. And, you know, to be in a band with all these guys at that level, you know, I'm kind of scratching my head saying to myself, like, how did I make the cut with all these dudes, you know? Kind of mind blowing. But such an honor to play with those guys. They're such great human beings and great musicians, creme de la creme. And then with George, you know, I basically vowed not to do another Sweet Lynch album for many reasons. And I felt like we had done our thing with the 2 albums, and then they approached us to do a 3rd album, and it's being done differently this time. I'm co-producing. Okay. The budget came down. So, you know, I produced the first 2 albums and did it a certain way, the only way I like to do things. And to do that, it takes a little more money. But it came down, so now we're co-producing. I'm co-producing with Alessandro, who's fantastic, by the way. And we got a killer album here, man. I tell you, awesome. It's a different drummer, different bass player. Okay. George and I, and it's definitely got a little bit of a different signature to it, and from the first 2.
Okay.
And I'm excited about it. I'm getting really excited. And I know once fans hear it, they're going to love it. And George and I are thrilled. And it's really killer. It's going to be awesome.
And that's also going to be 2023?
That'll come out sometime next year for sure. Oh, yeah.
So I think what I'm getting from this conversation today is 2023 is the year of Michael Sweet. I mean, that's just, you've got a lot going on. Do you ever feel like maybe is that too much? I mean, you got a lot going on.
You know what, buddy? I do got a lot going on, but I wouldn't have it any other way. If I didn't, I'd be concerned. But I do, and that's why I do so much of it.
I love it. Well, like we said before, the final battle is coming out tomorrow, October 14th. Anything else you want your fans to know about the release?
No, buddy, that's it. We're just super pumped. Can't wait for it to come out and see the reaction, and hopefully everyone loves it.
Absolutely. Well, I've heard it. I think the fans are going to love it. I think there's something there for everybody. Also, on a personal note, I'll be on the Kiss Cruise. I look forward to seeing you guys performing a few times on there, and certainly be looking for you in 2023 as well.
All right, brother. That's awesome. Can't wait. I'll be looking for you too. And come up and say hello, okay?
Absolutely. Will do. Take it easy, Michael.
All right, Mike. Take care, brother.
You too. Bye-bye. Alrighty. There you have it. I'd like to thank Michael Sweet for joining me, talking all about the new Stryper album, The Final Battle, as well as everything Stryper. I know I speak on behalf of all fans where we say we hope this isn't the final album by the band. It certainly sounds like it won't be, and we hope it's not. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.